Hey guys, I wanted to do a live video this morning and talk to you all about emotional eating, stress eating, binge eating, those kind of things for when you're not feeling, 100%, a lot of stuff's going on, you're feeling super stressed out. And if you're eating not for actual hunger, we're all going to eat for enjoyment. But if you're finding on a regular basis that you're emotionally eating, that you're eating more when you're stressed, when you're angry, when you're upset, when you're sad, kind of as a coping mechanism to not really handle some of those feelings, I just wanted to touch base with that because I do have experience with this. I'm a big time emotional eater and a stress eater. And usually for me, when two time periods collide, when I'm feeling extremely tired and when I'm feeling extremely stressed, is when I'm gonna go for the sugary stuff and for the sweet treats. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my own experience, some things that have caused emotional eating for me and binge eating for me. I still struggle with it. Now, whenever I fall off track, I notice that the episodes, I will say, are a lot less frequent in general. And when I do fall off track, they're not as severe as they used to be in the past. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, and I'll let you know about my current status, I wanted to do this video when it was fresh in my mind because I had a little bit of an episode yesterday. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I was pretty upset about it, and I want to talk to you all about what's going on because I've gone months and months and months without feeling this way, and I really felt like I had things on lock. And it just kind of goes to show that we just have to be aware of our feelings and know that we're all human, no one's perfect, and things like this are going to happen, and we just have to have a good mindset about it, can't be really hard on ourselves, and think about how we're going to address the situation in the future. So from the beginning, let me just kind of take you guys through a quick story about what was going on with me. Is I started competing. I started preparing for my first competition and competing in 2012. I competed in the amateur level for 2 competitions. I won one of my first 2 competitions. I went on to my first national show in 2013, and I won my pro card. From there, I did clusters of shows, pretty much back-to-back shows, and I was on a really restrictive meal plan. I only ate chicken, whitefish, 99% lean ground turkey, quinoa, brown rice, sweet potatoes, asparagus, and I was able to eat broccoli, but it didn't agree with me, so I didn't even have that. I had some avocado, and every now and then I had steak or salmon, and that was basically, and rice cakes, a little bit of peanut butter, and oats and egg whites. I never had a whole egg. So that went on for a few years that I only ate those foods, and I would have a free meal of maybe some frozen yogurt or a Pop-Tart, some cereal. Maybe I'd go out to eat and have a very small amount, like a sushi roll or something like that. So it was a very, very restrictive diet. There wasn't a whole lot of enjoyment or flavor. I usually packed my food wherever I went, and that's what I did for about 3 years. After I was finished competing and I would take breaks, I realized slowly I was having these bad habits sink in, and I would say a lot of it revolved around cheat meals, and that's why I did away with cheat meals, and I don't like saying cheat meals to my clients or having them do cheat meals. And the reason is because what I noticed with myself is that I would have these windows of time. It was sort of enticing binge eating. So I'd have these periods of time that this meal, I could have whatever I wanted. So I would go to a restaurant and I started really overindulging, and it started to be like, who had more on their cheat meal? Or, I ate all this food and, just stuffing my face. And I never used to do that. I always listened to my body's cues of when I felt full and this and that, and cheat meals kind of abolished that for me. So after a while, I started getting in the habit of, a show would end, and what I would be thinking of and what I'd be packing in my bag are what foods could I binge on? What could I eat? I wanted to make sure I packed like my yogurt covered pretzels, my trail mix, things that were salty and sweet, because I basically deprived myself of a lot of seasonings. Now I don't deprive myself of those things, and I cook very freely. I have a lot more sodium in my foods. I use a lot more spices and sauces. That's helped a lot. But I will say that the habit developed over a few years for me. So for me to think that I will just like that snap right out of it, it just isn't realistic. So I noticed that I had some episodes that were pretty bad. And when I say, what is the definition of binge eating? It's consuming a large amount of calories, a very large amount in one sitting, where you almost just are focused on consuming the calories. You would want to stop eating, but you just don't even feel like you can. Sometimes you're going from foods to foods and you're eating foods that you don't even like. There's a few things now that I have done that have really alleviated the situation, and I'll describe them to you because I think that a lot of people struggle with these things, especially with emotional eating. And these are a few tricks that you can use too that have worked for me so that you can tackle the issue. And one of those things is I don't keep my trigger foods in the house. So I think that anyone who has emotionally eaten before has a food that's sort of, they have a little bit of it and they kind of lose control around that food. For me, no matter how much in moderation I am, I still have to be conscious of that I do have a tendency to do this when I'm stressed and tired. And I will emotionally eat. So I don't have like a huge thing. I used to get these huge containers from Costco of trail mix. I don't have those in the house. I don't have Oreos in the house. Those two are my trigger foods. Yogurt covered pretzels, that's a trigger food for me. I'm not the person, I've heard of some people eating entire boxes of Pop-Tarts and things like that. I'm not the person that's going to do that. So for me, having some of those items are a little bit safer. Another thing that I've realized that has really helped me, if I do start to eat something, and I was unsuccessful with this tip last night, I kind of did my bad habit. The bad habit would be kind of snacking and munching like while you're looking for something else to eat, because then you start getting in that whole mindless eating, and that's a bad habit. What I suggest to do, if you're really feeling like something like this is coming on, and a lot of us can, you can probably relate to me when you say you kind of feel the stars like aligning, you're really having these strong cravings, you're really stressed out, you're really tired, you're really frustrated about something, it's to allow yourself to have whatever you want to have in a normal amount. So maybe my son I had ordered one of those like Hershey cookie pizzas for him, and I ate like a part of that cookie yesterday amongst some other things. And I'll tell you guys what, some of the stuff that I had, just so that I can really relate to you. Even though I'm a little embarrassed about it, I'm still going to put it out there for all of you guys so that, if this is going on with you, you can understand that no one's perfect. I mean, I'm coaching for a living and I still don't have, everything. I'm still a human being. So one thing is to take a part of what you want to eat and take it and just enjoy it. Just take the cookie that you want, or take a cupcake, or take a piece of cake. Forget your macros for this moment. If you're going to go off the deep end, you might as well plan to have something that's over. Having an extra cupcake in the week isn't going to hurt you, but having these binging episodes where you're going over by a few thousand calories, that's going to really affect you negatively. And not just appearance-wise and the scale, it really affects your body and how your mechanisms work, and just your body trying to work with all that sugar all at one time. You just want to be careful of those things for health reasons. So take it down and sit down and just enjoy it. Don't just sit in your pantry or whatever, kind of like snacking on random stuff. Another thing that really has helped me, so don't keep the trigger foods, try and sit down and enjoy it. If you know that you're going to have something, really pay attention. Remember back to that mindfulness. And that's going to be hard at first. It's going to be hard, but you want to enjoy it. Like yesterday, I ate some of these foods and I didn't even enjoy them because I was just kind of like Cookie Monster. So sit down with the food. Another really valuable tip would be if you're sitting down with the food, you're keeping some of the triggers out of your house, you're going to enjoy the part that you're going to have, you can stick to just one thing. The mistake that I would make in the past that would let things get really out of control is that I would have little bits of all different things. Maybe I would go from like something salty, and then I'd go to something sweet. Then I would go to something, a little bit of a different taste. Having all of these different tastes, because truly in this time period, you're probably not going to stop the craving, because what is going on with you is not physiological hunger. So sticking to one thing and having that will help, and then trying to make a conscious decision to do something else, whether it be go for a walk, have a cup of tea, have some hot chocolate, something that'll just take a little bit of extra time to consume. That'll be really helpful for you. Sorry, guys. That would be really helpful for you. So not going from food to food to food. So we're going to try and avoid just sitting in your pantry kind of snacking. We're going to avoid having a ton of trigger foods in there in large amounts. If you do have, say for instance, you're like me for trail mix and you want to bring some into the house, my suggestion would be kind of to separate it out into Ziploc bags. That way you can just kind of grab the one serving instead of, sitting there with the whole container, because it's pretty easy to go over one serving size or so of trail mix. So you can sit down with the food, and then don't skip from foods to foods to foods, because going from something sweet and salty, going back to something another, savory and this and that, and you're switching all over, you can find yourself increasing your cravings, keeping the craving momentum, and then wanting other things. So yesterday, what had kind of gone on with me, we've had company for 2 weeks, and I'm not really that great with not getting sleep, and it's been really loud in my house. So I've been extremely tired, and my whole thing was I was really craving sweets. So I ended up eating, there's some things that I have in the house because, like I said, I've been doing really well with bringing a lot of other foods in the house. So I do have chocolates in the house. I have the little Trader Joe's mini peanut butter cups. I think it's okay to have something every now and then. When I am feeling this way, I try my best to make a healthy choice and fill up on something and still give into my cravings a little bit. If that goes awry, I'll sub out a meal completely, and I'll have, say, a cupcake or, a donut that I want, and I'll sit down and really try and enjoy it. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is you need to celebrate the small wins. If you're somebody who's an emotional eater and you emotionally eat every single day, and that's very possible, and there is nothing wrong with that. You don't need to be embarrassed. The best thing that you can do is address the situation, try and reach out, try and get some help. Like I said, guys, I've talked to Noreen Roman in my case because I have had a lot of issues with binge eating and a lot of issues with disordered eating patterns from that I'm not going to say I never had. It's not because of competing. It's not competing's fault, but from being on a restrictive diet. And a lot of people who are serial dieters run into this issue because they'll have foods off limits. So that's why I love flexible dieting. It's very inclusive of all foods, and you don't feel like you can't have something no matter what. It's okay to have little bites off of, your kids' plates and things like that. You can kind of leave a little leeway for those items. But if you're having trouble with these things, reach out and get help, because there is a solution. So if you're having trouble with this every single day and you go a day and you don't emotionally eat, that's amazing. So celebrate that win. Say you go back to emotionally eating the very next day. It's okay. It's okay. We're working on things. It's not going to be gone overnight. This is a progress. You're a work in progress, and you're human, and you're going to go back and revert to some habits, but we're going to try and form a new habit. So if you're one of my clients and you're counting macros and you're finding that, you're overly stressed and you're having trouble, the best thing that you can do is keep focusing on planning your day and just repeating the same day. And then if you feel like you're going to go off the deep end and whatnot, reach out, because sometimes bumping up your caloric intake for maybe a week that that you're extremely stressed out to back to maintenance and just kind of hanging out, there's no race to lose 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, whatever amount of weight that you want to lose. There's no race. So if you need to bump up to maintenance and you just need to coast and chill for a little bit, that's cool. I had a conversation the other day with Evan. You guys know that he helps me out a lot. And I was just like, hey, right now I'm comfortable at the macros that I'm at. I kind of just want to sit here and just chill out. And that was totally fine. Just chill out over the holidays, stay at maintenance, kind of have a plan, but you can relax a little bit. So if you're feeling like that, you can bump your calories up. We can talk about bumping them up to maintenance for a little bit so that you can coast, so that you don't find yourself starving and upset. Now, other than that, you can use some of the tips that I just talked about to avoid binge eating. Don't have all your trigger foods in the house. Sit down with the food that you want to have. Don't jump from food to food. Those things are going to really help. Try and find alternative things For me, sometimes I'll try and find an alternative, and like it will just be haunting me. Like I really, I'm craving something. I really want to give into that craving. I really want that food. And we talked about willpower and how it only goes so far. So if you are going to give into your craving, then at least have a plan for that too. Instead of, oh, I messed up my macros. F it, I might as well just eat everything in my pantry, which is, I'm a huge perfectionist, and people who are perfectionists have a much higher tendency to have these kind of disordered eating patterns because they want to be perfect every single day with their diet, and whenever they fall off, then they just kind of lose their minds, and especially with competing and things like that, getting really big into the habit of critiquing myself, being really hard on myself, comparing myself to others, those kind of things I've been really working on. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this, because if you are the kind of person that does this, please, number one, don't be embarrassed. I know that yesterday when I went over my macros and I had a really bad day, I was super embarrassed and I didn't even want to tell Eric. I didn't want to talk to anyone about it. But then I finally did. I reached out to people that I know and trust for some help. If you're reaching out to somebody and they're not there to help you, or you didn't get the response that you really needed, or they just say, oh, forget about it, it's no big deal, like just do, don't worry, just shake it off, blah, 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 and you feel like you really need to address the situation more, or you're looking for more, don't give up. Just go to the next person. If you need help from me, I'm happy. I'm always here to help you no matter what. Otherwise, Noreen, who's on our staff, she's always here to help. She's amazing. But please don't be embarrassed, and please don't be afraid to ask for help. Emotional eating is, to be honest with you, I don't know anyone, at least not a female, that doesn't emotionally eat. So if you're in that boat, if you're stress eating, if you're binge eating, and you want to reach out to somebody for help, please reach out for help. I want you to know that you're not alone, first of all, that this is happening to me, and it's been happening to me for a long time. I remember even before competing, and some of that had to do with my hormones too. So that's the other thing I want to talk to you guys about. If you're finding that your PMS or anything during your cycle, sorry guys if some of you guys are going to start listening into these and this is TMI, but if you're finding that you cannot manage some of your day-to-day routine and your goals because you feel like certain times of the month are just extremely difficult to get through, then talk to your doctor and see if there's another way for you to, if you're on birth control or not, or regulate your hormones, or at the very minimum, I really encourage you guys to get blood work for your thyroid, your hormones, your cortisol level. See where you're at and see what you can do, because there are a ton of natural remedies, which I never, I kind of always thought the whole natural remedy thing was a little bit like kooky, just because being a nurse, you're more in the Western medicine kind of realm, but there are some really great things that you can try before you go to, regulating your hormones with birth control or something like that you might want to look into. So I hope that this video was helpful. I'm trying to put stuff out there of what goes on with me. I've realized from some people talking to me that they think that like every morning I wake up totally motivated to go to the gym and I eat perfect every day and my adherence was 100%. I will say that my adherence it's high, it's up there. When I don't adhere, I definitely let my coach know about the day. We kind of troubleshoot, we see what's going on. We kind of get some new ideas from there and move forward. I definitely don't just fall off the grid. I like to hold myself accountable. I like to put the effort there, but by no means does being adherent and putting the effort there mean 100% perfection all the time. It's impossible. We're all humans. So I hope that this helps, guys. And if you have any other ideas for videos from me, I would love to hear them. Please let me know and leave a message for me, okay?